Hi, hello, and welcome to the retrogration report brought to you by Vertex of Abundance. My name is Serene Priestess of Blessing. I'll be your oracle today. I was sent to deliberate the findings for the Jupiter retrograde. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. It's a delight and an honor and a pleasure to serve. Thank you for allowing us the privilege to do so. If anything that is said resonates deeply with you, go ahead and comment, share, subscribe, leave a review, book a consult, send a donation. This is coming out a little late. It should have been around on Tuesday. So the event that we're having is a retrogration, and it is happening in the sign of Cancer. So back last year, on the 11th of November, so 11/11, it retrograded in the third decan of Cancer. So a little bit more about that. The period between August and November, so for about 90 days or so, just about, just a little bit under 84 days or so. Okay, so that's Uranus. Okay, so the download is here. 84 days is the Uranian cycle. 84, 88, that's the Uranian cycle. Or a microcycle would be Mercury. So there was some kind of audit going on around the ancestral root where we're seated, our peace, security, also where we go and post up, where we're in the cut. Basically, dealing with private things, dealing with vulnerable things, dealing with contemplative things, or rejuvenative things. I'm hearing close cultivation. I'm hearing that word. So the 88 days prior to 11/11, the 84 days prior to 11/11 last year, 2025, we were heading into a cycle of re. So react, reserve, rethink, restructure, recraft, recompose, even redress. And Jupiter is the divine assist. So it's expansive and it's benevolent. And even when it is a little bit punitive, it's always a blessing. And when Jupiter can't really give you la fortuna, like the fortune, which is not always cash money dollar bills, when Jupiter can't give abundance, it does give protection. So at the very least, it will purge anything that blocks our eternal self, our higher self, which is the part of us that's connected to the divine, to the Godhead, which is anything that is conscious of itself in a spiritual way. Okay. Like I said, so we're having a divine assist to our ancestral root. We're having a divine assist to our rejuvenative self. We're having a divine assist to the places and the spaces where we go to cultivate, replenish, rejuvenate. And we're going to pull just a quick oracle in the beginning and the end from Astro Oracle. It's the star code Astro Oracle. That's by Heather Robbins. And that's over at Hay House. I was just shifted actually out of here. This is the deck that we'll be using. Actually, I thought we were going to do something different. So so we have a number 33 here, and it's talking about past South Node. That's also the axis between Cancer and Capricorn is the World card. So something about previous life is coming through, pulling through to help us to assist us in this life. Because right before this, we have 33 and 44. So right before, so this deck got chosen. We're still going to consult. Before we got onto this path, we were dealing with some kind of sustainability, sixth house energy. Even if it's not the sixth house for us, because, right now, on the 10th, the 11th of this month, Jupiter stationed direct. So during the first 3 weeks of March, the sun rises in the Pisces constellation. Okay. So if the sun is rising in Pisces and Jupiter is transiting the sign of Cancer, that's a fifth house event. So growth, expansion, vitality, renewal. Usually that's not exactly that, but it is. Since it's the house of the sun, Jupiter is the grand priest, the chief minister of the sun. Jupiter is employed by the sun. And they both are the two signs in the chart where it's completely Sophic, truthful, righteous, benefic in its nature. What that brings is some kind of, like I said, a grand, great, divine, benevolent assist. Something's coming through from a previous life. We have 33 and 44. That's the Melchizedek and the righteous order. Okay, so the divine architecture and the divine priest are coming through because we need growth, expansion, vitality, renewal in our craft, our talent, our cultivation. It's saying third house communications. So some of us, I'm getting that somebody here is an Aquarius rising. And whatever, however, Aquarius energy resonates is not for everyone, but however Aquarius energy resonates is significant. So if it's not something personal to our chart, because this is a general reading, Aquarius is the energy of the collective future. We're moving into a new phase, a new shift, and then the access between all the fixed signs, Aquarius being one of those, that's the wheel shifting. All the fixed houses together, that axis when it spins, it's the wheel of fortune. And then Jupiter is represented by the wheel of fortune. And then we have divine synthesis here, 33 and 44. It's saying descendant as well. So we're being ushered into a new something. Descendant is invitation, but it's also what comes across our horizon. Her eyes on when we look out to the precipice of our life, what's coming across our path, not what we're coming across, but what's coming across us. That's the descendant here. And it's mirrored by communication, intellect, reasoning, craft, talent, gifts. So that's curious, yeah. And then there's that 11th house I was just talking about. Here it says community. To me, the third house is community. Union, community, partnerships is the lover's card. Some key difference between the third house and could we have third house and 11th house here? Yeah, so the world is opening up, and how we see the world is also opening up. The third house is given. The neighborhood we grow up, the classmates that we're given that we don't get to choose, but the 11th house is our chosen. So think about our inherited or our family of origin, third house, our chosen family, 11th house. Also, older siblings, younger siblings, and it could be cousins as well. Even if it's like friend groups, the elder friend, whether it's in their maturity or their age or seniority or whatever, it would be the 11th house, the younger friend, our junior friend. That would be the third house. I'm picking up on some of this. So it's the same vibration for all of us watching this general reading, but the energy will manifest differently according to how we perceive the vibration. Yeah, so we're being invited into partnerships, and I'm feeling like these partnerships are about the Godhead for some reason. Because there's a little bit of tension, but the tension is asking us, what is it that we're going to deal with? And if we stick around, if we carry on to get along, if we play along to get along, is that self-betrayal? Are we stepping out of integrity when we do that? Because we do have a vision for the future, and we're being invited to a bigger, brighter, and better something. That comes up a lot with the 11th house as well. And even if we're not having a vision or not carrying a vision of a bigger, brighter, and better future, we're being aligned and connected and plugged into the all that is, the all that was, the all that ever will be. We can call it the divinity, we can call it the divine, we can call it the Godhead, whatever, the cosmos. That collective subconscious is bearing upon us and shining through us because we're beginning to work through whatever we need to do in this life, how we cultivate in this life, how we sustain ourselves in this life, whether it's day-to-day repetitive routines, whether it's environment, surrounding location, especially that we're spending every day, whether we work from home or have a workplace. It can be our regiments, our habits. It's our karmic debt, really. What obligations do we have? What responsibilities do we have in order to maintain the vow, the promise, or just the lifestyle? Because I'm hearing mysteries will be revealed. And I've been hearing that word a lot lately. For those of you who know what I'm saying, if you know, you know, more will be revealed. Because there is a little bit of tension about things we need to confront and they're within ourselves, really self betrayal. Are we on the path? Are we paying attention to our intuition? Are we open to a bigger, brighter, better future? Do we have an expansive mindset when a thought, when a hope, when a wish, when a prayer, when a dream comes across our heart, comes across our horizon, comes across our path? Do we woo poo poo it, cuckoo coo it, or do we, kumbaya lullaby it? What is going on there? Because ultimately, we can choose to be debilitated. Aquarius and 11th house, they're both here. We could choose to be debilitated or liberated. And even if the circumstances are not ideal, less than optimal, suboptimal even, we can use that as a stepping stone. When life throws you lemons, make some lemonade. And it's a couple of things to understand there. Some people are fancy. They put Moroccan mint and rose water in their lemonade, and other people recognize that lemons are not a natural creation. It's a breed between a bitter orange and a pomelo. So, or I mean, a citron. So, sometimes we're just creating problems. That's the gist there. And other times our standards are high and we don't need to justify those standards to others. We just need to go about our business and get on and get going on what we need to get going on. We don't have to explain ourselves to nobody, especially people that ain't trying to understand us, that are quick to arrive at a false narrative. This is said often, when somebody believes something about us is not true, when they stand in our way, when they block us, that's some kind of policing. That's some type of respectability politics or normative policing. Small minds talk about other people. Small minds talk about things. Great minds talks about ideas. A bigger, brighter, and better future, what they're hoping, wishing, and praying to do. The books they're reading, the concepts and ideas that they're incorporating, the subjects that they're excited to start learning, the experiences that they're looking forward to having. Okay. When they're sitting there talking about their problems, when they're sitting there talking about people, that's unhealed, unawakened, or low vibrational, non judgmentally, that's whatever it is. It's not in alignment and it shouldn't be, especially as we progress along the path. Because where we are, what we're doing is we're moving into a better relationship, whether it's with ourselves. I do want to say we are being invited into partnerships, and these are partnerships that are they're they're non-superficial surface level. They are nourishing, mutually beneficial, needs exchange. They're deep. Eighth house is depth, mystery. And we're going to need to do what we need to do to get in and fit in those relationships, meaning there's going to be work. It's not going to be some superficial surface level. It's going to be deep. We're going to have to explore. We're going to have to expand. Some of us have the divine masculine coming in. We have Venus energy here as well, beloved. Okay, so it can be reunions for some of us because there was some type of separation. Three of Cups, Four of Cups, the separation might have been detachment. It might have been perceived rejection. We might need to get back out there to groups and spaces and places that we used to inhabit. We have a double four here. Normally that would be negative. So perhaps in the past, there could have been some type of sunken place, apathy. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. Now, double four, when the four of wands is present, a multiple of fours actually is positive. It means growing into the next step, whatever that is, furthering the commitment. So fours in their nature talk about system structures and foundations, basically. And when it comes up with the emperor, it's talking about solidifying, implementing, and incorporating. So there's been some opposition out there, whether it's opposing ideas, whether it's been inner demon, shadow self. And the shadow and the dark and darkness is different. So I'm finding that we're stepping out of darkness in relationship and in respect to others, whether it's familial, whether it's congenial. And then for ourselves, we're stepping out of the dark. We're stepping out of the shadow. So that the dark and darkness are not the same. The dark is a gestation for creation. The darkness is basically it needs shadow to feed on. So shadow is the absence of illumination and light. It's a place where the light hasn't penetrated yet. Doesn't mean that it can, but light talks about love, it talks about illumination, meaning seeing the truth and spiraling upwards towards unconditional love and universal oneness. Shadow is when things have yet to be illuminated. Basically, sometimes we need to confront them. We might need to, you know, go on a pilgrimage, have some type of epiphany, awakening, enlightenment, whatever, what have you, so on and so forth. Now, in the shadow can also exist darkness, but darkness is basically when something's become corrupt, when something becomes greed, when something becomes anger, evil, hatred, because it feels like it's been left behind, ignored. Oftentimes it starts with an attempt to soothe the self, but then it gives over to negativity. And when the shadow contracts, when the shadow dissipates, that being in the darkness has often become trapped, perhaps even damned, maybe even eternally. So again, the dark is not the same as darkness. So we were in the dark, however, we're leaving places and spaces where there was darkness, oftentimes in relation, whether congenial, meaning friend, business, whatever, or filial, meaning lover, romantic. When we're leaving places and spaces with people, that was more darkness. There was too much shadow, a lack of illumination. Maybe we needed to do the self work. Okay. Now, when we are stepping into that light, stepping into that self work, stepping into that shadow work, coming into illumination and enlightenment, coming into healing and awakening, it was just the dark, meaning there was some type of gestation period for creation, for abundance. There was probably shadow, meaning a lack of enlightenment. Maybe we hadn't been tested yet, because tests become testimonies, but also mess become messages. But in order to do that, we need to go through tribulation, a heavenly judgment. And I'm finding that not everybody takes it with us. Not everybody goes with us where we're going, but we did activate here. Yeah, I'm hearing this song, I'm on my way, right on my way. Yep, I'm stepping out, I'm going all out. So that's good. Let's check this double four. We got two things to do here before we go. And um the link in the show notes has been updated if you're been having challenges with the readings, booking a reading, that's been reconciled. In the next day or so, probably around the time I upload this video, I will put a temporary accessible reading there. It will only last until the equinox, whatever hemisphere you're in, we're having an equinox. So that's around the 22nd of March. As we move into Aries, Ariete, that will dissipate. So if you'd like a cost-effective reading, an accessible reading, an economy reading, that will be there. It will only come as a voice recording, not even a video, but that's there for you. And so we were told to go here. So I don't have the name of the interface that we're using here, but as I said, we were coming out of some type of working, and the darkness was presiding over some type of shadow that we were inhabiting. And I wanted to say very clearly, my dear, I don't feel that we were in the darkness. I feel that we were in the dark. The difference between darkness is what is traditionally called evil. There's negativity, greed, and corruption, and you're giving away in order to soothe. Dark is just the absence of expansion. It's more of a contractive, incubatory place. Everything that is created comes from and returns to darkness. It's the primordial sea of creation. Shadow is the absence of light. It typically is a testing corridor where we have to strive to gain illumination. Darkness is where you go when you want to get recruited by the other team. Okay. So there's something happening. There's this flanking mechanism to this Four of Cups. Remember what I said? The absence of love is not hatred, it's apathy. So that sunken place, Four of Cups. And there's no Four of Wands here. We have just the Four of Cups with this Three of Pentacles. That's not good. That means there was some root working altar or some co-creation, collaboration, cooperation, perhaps a click covenant or cabal that was working towards either getting us to leave, getting us to stay put, getting us to stay down. Yet it's flanked by a double ace. A double ace is a partnership. We've been working towards staying single, or we've been maybe isolating. Something had to come through, and Queen of Swords, Five of Pentacles, Strength card. Strength card to wisdom, emotional fortitude was needed to overcome some type of stinking thinking, some kind of ideology. This could be an energy entity ideology that's stripping, binding. It could be destabilizing, destroying even, but destabilizing, debilitating. It's typically ideological. It typically is poverty mentality, but it could also just be stinking thinking, a lack of self-worth and value, a lack of an expansive mindset, also called a limited mindset. Because there was some sorrow here. You know, when the Queen of Swords is out, especially when there's an expansive energy, we could have been dealing with cloudy skies. Even though things are progressing, it might not be pleasant. Even though things are getting expansive, it might be what's expanding is some type of separation, some type of austerity, some type of even estrangement. Okay, so let's go through the gate here and see what we have. See what the Oracle says. Yeah, I'm on my way. I'm on my way, right on my way. There's another song coming through by Jean, Ahsian, I think, or Asa Ajan. She also sings the song Gucci Frames because I'm getting the spelling of her name incorrect. but it's the same artist that sings Gucci Frames. The song that she sings that I'm referring to is another song of hers called I'm on My Way. I'm hearing that song. Okay. So as we open up the gate, what we're dealing with is, yeah, we are growing and expanding in some kind of way. We're finding our soul, our authentic self, our true nature, King of Cups. So despite however long it took, Knight of Pentacles, that could be the I'm hearing, oh, this is unpolite language. I'm hearing we were in that limited mindset for a long time. And it's not always us because this is a general reading, but I'm inclined to believe that it was because it's further to the left. It's further to the shadow side, to our side. But it could have been that we were just dealing with very stuck energy, very delayed, because the Knight of Pentacles is also the delayed arrival. It could mean that we had to go through a whole bunch just to get, we had to work twice as hard to get half as far kind of energy. And we're coming into some beloved and benevolent place in space. Things are finally working out, evening out. Karma might have come through, alignment might have come through. The universe might finally be deliberating over our case. And if we're in the corridor, excuse me, excuse me, of divine assistance, yeah. So now we're doing that pathwork star card. These cards are faded. There should be a link to donations in the show notes. You can always gift a Thoth deck to the channel here. Now we're doing that thing. I'm hearing that thing, that thing, that thing. Guys saying, girls, you better watch out. Some guys are only about. Some people are only about competition. They need to be bigger, brighter, and better. They dislike it when someone else is receiving more affection, adoration, appreciation, acknowledgement, attention. And I don't understand that complex. I do not. However, what we want personally is union, communion, partnership. It doesn't need to be romantic. Oftentimes it is with the Two of Cups. It means being on the same page, being beloved, finding our 2020 twin, not in sense of twin flame or union, but in the sense of somebody who's on the same page. Birds of a feather flock together. And something is coming back. So something is trying to get to us or come back to us. But with the wands, if it is trying to get to us for the first time, it was dispatched by the heavens. The seraphim is what I'm hearing. And the star card represents the calling in our life, a bigger, brighter, better future, faith, hope, and optimism. So we're back to the Imperatore, the Emperor. Let's see what the gate has in summation. The findings are expansion on the grounds that we've been having to expertly overcome limited mindsets or stinking thinking. And it might not be our own. It could have been that we were in an environment around a location where some kind of energy, some type of entity, some type of ideology was oppressive in its nature. It left us in a sunken place or in a place of being on the back burner, waiting. Things were not moving quickly. It could have also been that we were suppressed in some kind of way, at least emotionally. There might not have been good favor, goodwill shown to us, given to us. However, we gave it to ourselves here with the Queen of Cups, Ten of Cups. That means needing fulfillment. Nine of Cups is contentment. Ten of Cups is fulfillment. It also means that we've already found our place in the eternal kingdom. Whatever that is, however that is, whatever that looks like. And it's time to go back out in two places and spaces that are shared and communal where we're celebrated. Three of Cups. Six of Swords is ship over troubled waters. Three of Cups is the reunion. Both of these cards together is we have clearance through the river Styx. We've received we've received grace from the divine. And it was by the Lord. With the King of Cups here, that's God, versus the Knight of Cups being Jesus. For those of you who are inclined, I know we have some agnostics here. So I'm just going to close the gate. We have what we need, and there's nothing here that's negative, although at the gate is the devil, unfortunately. I'm just going to show right quickly. So I kind of just want to give it over to the divine. I want to give it to the Lord. Because when we have I'm hearing Diavolo, so there's some type of energy manipulation, spiritual manipulation, energy projection. Unfortunately, I can't say that it isn't. And when you have this is a new group. This is a new love. And then when you have this is a new obsession or stalker. And this together could talk about unrequited love, feelings of being rejected. We had the Four of Cups as the central axis just recently. So that tells me that, you know what? Somebody might have felt rejected. Somebody might have felt that we were too detached. Somebody might have felt that we were inaccessible, unapproachable, non-amenable, non-agreeable, and they might have did and responded some kind of way, even if they didn't have any type of practice or spiritual technology that they could energetically project to us or spiritually manipulate us. They might have just been ruminating, oscillating, marinating in hate, vacillating in venom. That's also the Five of Pentacles. However, it's not an intentional like the Five of Swords. It's an unintentional energy. Five of Pentacles. So they got stinking thinking. They have a limited mindset. There's some type of energy, entity, ideology not attached to them. We didn't see the Nine of Swords, but we did see, well, with the Devil and the Lover's card, because the Lover's card is 8, 9, and 10 of Swords. 9 of Swords with the Devil is a spiritual attachment. So they could have been a vessel for demons, excuse me. They can be a highway for demons, some type of energy, entity, ideology that's not aligned. They might be consigned to a lesser spirit. Let me leave it right there. Typically, this means stalking, obsession, unrequited love, some type of compulsion. I don't like it. So, just to be safe, why don't we give this to the Lord? Lord's going to close the gate with the Queen of Cups. It's a lovely place to do it, but frankly, I don't like what's hiding behind the gate there. That's a no. That's a no. And we're going to give this to the Lord. Send it back to the universal subconscious. Yeah. So it's like the gift or the temptation that we're being given is to accept anything because we're supposed to have been starved. We're supposed to have felt ignored. So we'll take anything because we're starving for something. And that's a lack of self-worth and value. That's what this energy feels like. And I feel like with this divine assist, with this Jupiter stationing direct, we've had a couple few months, around almost 8 months, to consider the places and spaces where we feel celebrated or the places and spaces where we feel tolerated. Places and spaces where we feel celebrated and venerated, or the places where we feel tolerated, even manipulated. And it might not have been clear right away because there is some type of turning of the tables or needing attendant, not attention. We need to attend to certain things because we know that there's a blessing for us and we should be receiving it, but it might have been withheld because we're some type of target. I do feel like something kind of an energy came through and wanted to push us around, lord over, preside over, speak over our life in some kind of way. Felt that we were in some type of covert contract. Some energy, entity, ideology felt that we should be acting some way, responding some way, thinking some way, feeling some way. And the fact that we weren't participating in whatever narrative framework that they had or it had gave them an ego injury and they responded with anger instead of compassion. When there's a conflict, go towards the connection. It's better to be well than it is to be right. Do you care more about the relationship or do you care more about winning an argument, winning a fight? Because in a healthy relationship, it evolves at a boundary. In a healthy relationship, you're fighting for the relationship. You're not fighting the person. And this is not that. This is not that. Because in the future, we're supposed to have the promise on our life or some type of legacy. And it's ordained. The sword is it's ordained. And this together can mean pregnancy, and it doesn't always mean with child, but the female, the divine feminine empress, the divine feminine. And if you're in a male, male assigned at birth or male identified, it just means you're in your creative and nurturing energy. The womb on the female is gestation and conception. On the male, it's not the organs, but the third eye, and that's inception and implementation. Okay, but with the feminine energy, it's gestation, creation through nurturing. Okay, so it's also the material side of spiritual affairs. So something's going to materialize. And look, the emperor and the empress are both looking at movement. Imperatrice, imperatore, there, and it's flanking the Ten of Pentacles with the. So we could be waiting on cash money dollar bills, but what I'm getting is that we're going to get everything that was promised to us because we get on the right path. And the Empress definitely rules self-worth and value. Okay. So there's one little thing here. There is some type of craft work to get us to have a little bit of stripping and a little bit of chaos. That's the energy that's trying to get itself through the door. Okay. It would like us to be tribute. We need to be the one who falls. And that's the intention here. There's an intention here. And on the other hand, there could also be something coming forward that tries to get us into a union. So let's translate this because I've said two very divergent paths here, and I know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, up until recently, we were bound or left in a sunken place with some type of energy, entity, ideology. And since we were in the dark about something, since we were walking through the shadow, going through a trial of tribulation of illumination, we were left with this energy, entity, ideology because we were trying to, or the universe wanted us to work on our self worth and value. Over the last 8 months, as we've been working on our self worth and value, we now have emerged into the light, out of the shadow, out of the dark, not living in darkness, meaning we didn't give ourselves over to any type of negativity to soothe ourselves. We actually gave ourselves over to the pain because the pain cleansed. We didn't suffer, but we did struggle, which built a muscle of self respect. And now that we've acclimated to that higher frequency, that bigger, brighter, and better energy, now a union is going to manifest. It might not be romantic. I'm feeling that it will be, but I'm getting that will be in a mutually beneficial, nourishing needs exchange in some type of unity, community partnership. Okay. So that could be one on one, that could be one on many. We might even be returning to places and spaces where previously we felt overlooked, something of that nature. Okay. Okay, so the devil's no longer peeking behind the door. There, yeah, there's an energy out there, because some people could have a whole loaf of bread and they're jealous of our little slice. I don't understand that. I never will. But here's the deal. Access to us, we screen that very clearly these days. So now we've moved into the place where this is now shifted to the Queen with the Two of Cups instead of the Knight of Swords with the Two of Cups. And it's now the Knight of Wands, which means the divine alive in us is making moves. Okay. So I do want to say, unless we're dealing with a Mars in the 12th house or Pisces rising, we were dealing with some type of spell work. And spells are not always abracadabra, hocus pocus, lighting a candle, chanting at the altar. It could just be something that's working and it's connected into some type of universal source or universal power source, and it's doing the most behind the scenes. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. We had to find strength, courage, and wisdom because that thing that was working on us, it wasn't another person. It wasn't some bruja across the street or some, estrega from the workplace or whatever. We were in a certain type of frequency, energy, vibrational corridor where the archonic energy that was looking for some kind of source to inhabit and to drain spotted us. And it did the little tick, 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 trying to chisel us away to make us weak so that we can give ourselves over to the darkness, and it didn't happen. And through that process and through that experience, what happened was we found our light, which is self worth and value. We found our respect, which is illumination and enlightenment. And now we've moved back into strength, courage, and wisdom, emotional fortitude. And whatever comes our way next, not only can we recognize it, but we won't fall prey to whatever dynamics we were living in previously. We were previously unrefined and inelegant in some very minuscule way, probably self worth and value or ideology, frankly. Five of Pentacles means that there's something there that's mediocre and basic, common, and it has to deal with thinking, if that makes sense. So I really want to wrap this up. Yeah, I'm hearing that song, A Scrub is a guy that thinks he's fly. And it's oh so long as a buster. So we had that double four, remember? Four of wands, four of cups. So I was talking about what he had. I'm hearing that word. Oh, the two of cups just came. Future faking. Talking about a bigger, better, better future, but not doing any work right now. And the masculine energy, whether or not they're assigned or identified, the masculine energy is a protector, provider, and a procreator. And that doesn't always mean to be baby making, doesn't always need to be cash money dollar bills, but they have providence. They meaning they're in the future, working towards the present. Okay, that's what that divine masculine energy does. So this two of cups is brings the message. We are going to get a message of love. It's not just that we're feeling unified, but we're going to get a message of love. And again, in the second deck, we have the sun coming out with the Empress and some type of reunion. So we might need to go back to some place because something is ripe. Something is ripe. We somehow are blocking the path to Four of Wands, which is twin flame union. And it's intentional. There's something on the perimeter, either in our stinking thinking or there's something is prospecting us, watching us to ensure that there's a little bit of chaos, or a little bit of occlusion. There is an intent out there. Let me just say it like this. There is an intent out there that we don't know what is coming our way. So I gotta say, with beyond a shadow of a doubt, we were previously 8 months ago, 9 months ago, dealing with some energy into the ideology that wanted to block us. And it might not be from a person, but the intent is still the same. Something didn't want us to join up with our future self, get to our higher self, evolve our timeline. They wanted us to stay behind, stay stuck. Okay, so as we open the gate, what I'm seeing here is, oh, yeah. So we're aware lately that we've been working on ourselves and that we are staying on the high road, staying on the high ground. Doesn't matter whatever, what have you, so on and so forth. And our blessings are coming back around. The tables are turning because, we're a juicy prospect, but also we could get targeted very easily for no reason other than we have promise or we're chosen. We have this golden child energy to those living in the dark. We might not see it, we might not understand it, but to those living in the dark, we're going to get haters easily. That's just the thing, though. You'll never find a hater doing better than you. And if you do, they're on a counterfeit throne and they're becoming obsolete. Like I said, they could have a whole loaf of bread and still be jealous of our little slice. That's a hater that's doing better than us, that's still hating on us because they're on a counterfeit throne or they're becoming obsolete. And this is true. So there's the end of some type of betrayal or open enmity. Okay. And there is an intent out there. It might be a person. I'm starting to feel a person, but there is an intent out there to get us to be an oath breaker, covenant breaker. So that's Levi. Yeah, and see the thing is, this Two of Cups comes after we lost some type of group. We had to step away from something, some type of group or collaborative energy or teaching. We had to step away from something. So the spilled milk is a cycle that was unpleasant, and the recovery from the spilled milk is this Two of Cups. Something was at work. Something was at work. Okay, yeah, for sure, for sure. So we're having growth expansion now. We're driving life forward according to our drive, desires, passions, motivations, because we have spiritual strength to build. And we're very clear on what that is now. Somebody's asking for another chance. We're in a place of healing, and this other person is. So, not as much for us in this context means that we were hunted, attacked, maybe even spiritually attacked. If it's the other side, something's reverberating back to them like a backlash or a backfire. Essentially, what it is that they're feeling bad because they're shame, guilt, because we're winning. And that's actually really upsetting some kind of energy, entity, ideology. Now, oh, and it might just be ensured defeat because if it's a non-corporeal being that's has an intent on our path, nine of swords could mean ensured defeat. It's clear a clear loss is around the corner. Okay, so we're having the universe is folding in on itself here, and I'm curious why. Oh, okay. Because there were workings, there were negative workings. These two cards together, that's altar work, usually with a root. Or somebody has put into motion the energies already out there and running. So we didn't have good prospects for the future, but that's actually our prayer was answered with the Three of Cups. Yeah, I just, before we could take the oath to whatever the calling on our life is, Hierophant and the Star card, before we could step into the tradition, step into the spiritual office, the sacred office, the spiritual ranking of whatever the calling on our life is, and have that growth, expansion, vitality, renewal, because we have a bigger, brighter, better life, because we're living in faith, hope, and optimism. There was some type of conditions. It would have shown up as regulation, restriction, rules, but also we were gate kept for a reason because our personal power wasn't high enough. Okay. But also, whatever those restrictions and rules and regulations were, it's being lifted for sure, for sure. And there was some type of oath that we needed to take. It might have been a vow to ourselves or an oath to the divine. But again, we're coming out of whatever binding, we fulfilled whatever terms and conditions, because around the corner is blessings and healing, return and healing. And it might be a reconciliation for some of us, unfortunately. I like to leave the past in the past, but everybody doesn't have that narrative. It doesn't apply to everybody. So something that we work towards will manifest. King of Cups is a manifestation card, will manifest. And also it can be that the heavens is ruled with the judgment card there. Yeah. An ordeal is over with this Ten of Swords here. We're about to be blessed. We might not know, or we might know very well. It won't be uncertain. It will either be unknown or very, very certain. The tables are going to turn some way. However, again, again, the one thing that we need to understand is that if our life is getting better, there is some spiritual targeting. It's reading as an entity. Okay. Yeah, because we're inaccessible to somebody is finding us inaccessible. Or there was some energy of wanting to keep us some kind of way, wanting to keep us stuck or small or on the back burner or whatever. And I guess well, it's evident to me that since we were working on our own self worth and value, that energy wasn't allowed to persist. We went into wise teachings on the calling in our life. It was very wise for us to seclude ourselves in our hopes, our wishes, our dreams, our aspirations, our heart's desires, our soul's ambitions. Oh, I forgot one thing here. Yeah, that was the exact thing to do. So we went into self cultivation, post cultivation, and that was the thing we needed to do because we're working out of some kind of binding or terms and conditions or delay because there was a rupture. We needed to mourn, grieve something, and it was unpleasant. We might have been stuck in the grief stage for some while. I'm hearing collapse of innocence. It's not always that we were innocent in the normal sense, but it could be that something in us. I'm hearing that there was a harsher reality than we were facing up to. And for most of us, that wasn't it. For most of us, we were going through a cycle of needing to have more self worth and value, even if we already had a lot. And we had to spend about 8 months bringing in the heartache so that that trauma, that separation, that rupture provided enough of a lesson plan for us to have a fundamentally different preparation for our future. And that future is returning to abundance. So it's been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to serve. Thank you for allowing me to do so. Again, if anything resonated deeply with you, go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, leave a review, book a session, send a donation. I want to pull an archetype card, and again, I want to pull a pop of love because we got a little bit of twin flame energy today. Okay, well, I got a lot of data. So if we're dealing with others, we have a false hero or distorted hero here. So escapism, false sense of heroism. That might be what's being projected out towards us. I don't really feel that because somebody else is selfless and devoted, but it's for the wrong reasons. It's to escape their own personal empowerment. It's almost like they're leaving it in our hands for whatever reason I do not know. They're giving away their value to avoid negative feelings. And we're seen as the one who's strong. So things are falling on us that shouldn't. And there's some type of harmful information sharing here. The way we're being approached or addressed is not healthy, it's not helpful. And they might not even be addressing us to our face. This is the Carolyn Miss archetype cards, also from Hay House, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and a message didn't come through. Now, one thing we might need to shift is understanding that there's more than one way to skin and cap. There's more than one way to arrive at a solution. The answer is not always the solution as well. Sometimes it's very clear to us what to do, but going towards the solution might not build the foundation that we need. For instance, some people just need to build the connection by talking out loud with whatever they're experiencing, and we might be sitting there trying to solve the problem for them or immediately going right into work mode. It's called action bias. Somebody might be processing their experience and we're immediately cutting them off saying, do this, do that. Meanwhile, an emotional connection is just slip through our fingers. Yeah, saboteur. That's what I'm getting as well. So I've been getting three things with every iteration that we go through. I've been getting three different. One is that there was an entity not attached to us. It was a collective energy that everybody was under that was just trying to get us in the darkness, get us stuck in the darkness, get us to give over to the negativity, to feel left behind, to feel overlooked, to feel abandoned by the divine, to feel like love slipped through our fingers, and it didn't happen. We spent that time in the dark, not giving into the darkness, walking through the shadow to find the light, and we found the light, and it was our self worth and value. Secondly, though, we might be posted up with ourselves in the cut, feeling deep, not wanting to get back out there and connect with people right now because we're just loving it. We're feeling ourselves. So that's another thing. If that is the thing, the third thing would be if we stick in this cycle more than another few weeks of being alone, being isolated, being in seclusion, we might be beginning to sabotage something. Mm-hmm. Because the thing is, we faced one demon, but now we might be walking right into the mouth of another demon. We freed ourselves up from something that was destructive, some type of normative policing. We were put into a little box. We didn't fit that box. And instead of asking for collaboration and cooperation to make sure everybody's getting their needs met, we were labeled and ridiculed and ostracized for whatever reason and whatever way. And we walked away so that we could hear that inner voice. We walked away so that we could be at one with ourselves. We walked away so that we could be in alignment. And walking away is not always one foot in front of the other. It might be withdrawal. It might be detachment. That's the Four of Cups, detachment. It might be a pensive pause that takes 8 months, a year, so that we can hear that inner voice. However, when we in the shadow of the exorcist, it says fear of facing one's own demons. So there is something that's preventing us from re-engaging, and it doesn't need to be in the same places and spaces as before. It could be trying again just with a new, don't stop painting this, get a new canvas. So everything is starting to look the same as well. We're perceiving every shadow on the wall as negative. And some things that we feel that we're being guided to do are not accurate. The guidance is to re-engage. Maybe not with an individual person, but in general. And I'm just going to give you internally what we advise when you come into a one-on-one reading. If the other party was not unhealed, unawakened, excuse me, if the other party was not deceptive or contemptful, contemptuous or deceptive, there may be space to redress and to retry. Now, if there was contempt, if there was deceit, that's a no-go, no fly zone. Contempt and deceit cover every single thing a person could do. And that's negative. Whether there was harm, whether there was gossip, whether there was slander, whether there was all the things that are a never again, never again. It all falls under contempt or deceit. Now, if it wasn't contempt or deceit and they were simply unhealed, unawakened, and they've come back healed, awakening, healed, awakened, healing, awakening, and at least at the very least, they're able to say, I can see how I contributed to a negative outcome. I understand what behavior contributed to that. Here's the work I'm doing to never do that again. And I'm really sorry that my behavior affected your experience. That may be time to open space back up. We're under no obligation to remain accessible, to remain approachable, to be agreeable, to be amenable. If somebody's stepping all over our feelings, we don't have to really care about theirs. We can always be kind and still not be nice. We could have unconditional love, but not unconditional tolerance. Just because we have unconditional love, they don't need to change for us to love them. We may not nurture them anymore. Doesn't mean we don't love them. Doesn't mean that the feelings that are there still are no longer there. It just means that we have to flee from people that are trying to harm us, intentionally or unintentionally harming us, if that makes sense. Because saboteur, something has been mastered and we need to go on to the next step. We're still staying in the old framework, which it was introductory. It was educational. We've graduated from that mind frame, from that framework. So now we need to have an awareness of the fear and understand how self-empowerment will bring changes into our life because we've already achieved the self-empowerment. That's the message. Now we have one more. Thank you for bearing with us. This is Pop of Love Oracle by a Vibe About It Tarot, and she's over on Etsy. She has a handful of decks, like half a dozen. I really enjoy this one. Yeah, sentimentality, and it's in the distortion here. Okay, so the past is still coming up. Memories of us bring joy, but agony at the same time. I think about you constantly, and you're never far from my thoughts. This is on the grounds of divine masculine in the distortion, past life in the distortion, telepathic, and twin flame. Oh my goodness. First of all, it's a maybe. Maybe leaning towards yes. Second of all, twin flame is upright. Past life is in the reverse, but telepathic and twin flame, this is enough. Because we don't have masquerading or deceit here. It didn't come out. So the divine masculine in the distortion means that they're still going through their lessons. Okay. They're working through finding one of these here. They have a few, but not all of them. Clarity of focus, generosity of heart, powerful presence, undaunted ambition, discipline, largeness of mind, risk taking, assertiveness, strength of body, and resolve, fiercely protective instinct, action oriented. They have some of that, but not enough of that. Okay. Here's the narrative. I'm working on my divine masculine side. I need to be more assertive, confident, and speak up for myself. I can no longer bow out of things and situations when I become fearful, but fight for what I love, and that is you. Okay. So there's some past life energy here still being reconciled. This is again in the reverse, but however, We have twin flame in the upright with a telepathic connection. I wish it were heart to heart connection, because that would mean that the twin flame situation is anchored. We have not just twin flame union, but soulmate union. It's only twin flame union right now, which means it can dissipate. So time's a wasted. Okay. Telepathic, random thought and intense feelings. Notices patterns, images, or numbers in the day to day that remind you of that person. And the feelings are brought to you by your twin. And then here's the twin, twin. So single soul split in half before reincarnating into two separate bodies. Purpose to live life separately, learning lessons, possible reunion after becoming stronger when awakened. So it's been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to serve. Thank you for allowing us to do so. Take good care. To all those still lost out there, to illusion, delusion, confusion, lost in the seas of time, trapped somewhere in the matrix, yet to heal, yet to awaken, yet to return to the resplendent grace of the divine unconditional oneness. Upon, we love you. We're sorry. Please forgive us. Thank you. We ask that our steps be ordered. We ask that our path be illuminated, and that we find salvation and redemption in this lifetime. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be whole. May you be at peace. May you receive everything you ever wanted, starting with what you deserve. Until we meet again, until we read again. Namaste, Dandava, and Ashe. Sayonara, das vidanya, Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao.